Welcome to the Fat2Fit HQ podcast. We are your hosts, Carol and JT of the Firearms Radio Network. If you're watching this video, it is the unedited version of our weekly podcast, which goes out in audio. And we have a special guest this week. We have Anna Vocino of the Angriest Trainer podcast. Did I say it right, Anna?
You did say it right. America's Angriest Trainer, Angriest Trainer podcast. I feel like we don't even know what the name of our show is.
It's
After
awesome.
3 years, we should know that. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're so excited to have you. I totally should have had Jack read it because Jack's been talking about your show for the longest time, and we had Vinny on.
And
Jack,
I appreciate that, Jack.
Oh, no worries. It's all good. So I enjoy listening to you guys, and so it's a treat to get to talk to you in person.
Yeah. Jack, we were talking off air before for anybody who doesn't know the history, a couple of gun guys that the president of our network, Jake Challen and Zach Carlson, started this show a few years back just to try to lose weight. So it truly is just a journey. I was a listener, and I joined them and then took over. And after I'd been doing it for a little while, the three of us had been doing it, we met Jack. And Jack had lost about 35 pounds. He was a gun guy that just started listening and started learning through some of the other resources we turned him on to. And now Jack's less, he's around the 70-pound mark. It's holding steady, up or down a few pounds from that. And one of the big things, Jack, I don't know how your voice is holding up. Jack, do you want to say one of the, how you explained it to Anna earlier, how you found Vinny and all that?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before, just in the midst of bouncing around the various low-carb related podcasts. I can't remember exactly where I heard Vinny as a guest, but then I read the book, then listened to the audiobook, then started listening to the podcast, and started telling people about it, because what NSNG did, at least for me, was it simplified kind of the process. I think fundamentally it gets you to the same place, but it's less about having to keep a book under your arm of what you can and can't eat, and just remember a couple simple things, just avoiding sugars and grains. So for me, it just simplified it, and I think we had Tim on a couple weeks ago, and I know it worked for him as well, and so it's just exciting to talk to Anna in person.
Yay!
Yay. It really is. We've already had people, because I posted on Facebook that we'd be talking to you, and if people don't know, NSNG is no sugar, no grains, and Vinny Tortorich, we had him on the show. I'll put a link to the show we did with him about a month ago. We had great response, because he really does simplify the whole thing, and he has a very popular podcast, a little controversial from time to time.
Sometimes we have sailors' mouths. Let's put it that way.
Colorful.
But we mark it as explicit. I wouldn't listen to it, on the boombox at work.
not without headphones.
Yeah, it's a headphone show.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is. I really enjoyed it, and you're his co-host.
Yes.
Now, and so, but tell us a little bit about you, because you have this whole other career in film and voiceover and everything.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about you, yes, because we got to hear all about Vinny when he was on.
If I could show you guys, but I can't because my interwebs is being a jerk. But we're in my studio, and if you could see from the ironic thing is the picture that's up, and I don't know if this is going to be up for the Google Hangout, but the picture is me staring at a gluten-free pizza, which I don't even eat anymore. So if you guys are seeing that picture, it's pepperoni on a pizza. That's what you're looking at, me staring at a pepperoni on a pizza that now I don't eat. But we'll talk about variations of pizza later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're in my studio right now. I remodeled my garage into a studio because I do voiceover, and it's really easy to have a home voiceover studio. And I have an ISDN box, which is a way that the people like ABC can call, even though they're just over the hill in Hollywood. They can call me, and my microphone goes directly through the ISDN box and into their computer in real time. And I do my sessions that way, and I did several sessions today. And I do I narrate television shows, I do promos, I do commercials, I do video games, I do animated stuff, all
Awesome.
sorts of stuff. And I also work on camera from time to time. Not as much as I used to, but I still do that. Yeah.
Okay,
From time to time.
I want you to know my kids keep playing your spot on Jimmy Kimmel. One of the one
Oh,
time you were on there and you were Siri. They
yeah.
love that clip and they
That
found
thing
it on
went
YouTube.
viral, man. That was
It's
crazy.
fantastic. I'll put a link to that too.
It was
And
funny.
as inappropriate as it is, I let them watch clips of free radio too.
It is
Because
very
it's just
inappropriate.
hilarious. I know.
God, I'm
That's
associated with a lot
what-
of inappropriate material, aren't I?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
but we're
that's all
a
right.
real open family.
Good.
We're desensitized.
Free radio wasn't too bad.
It was funny.
It was basic cable, and we couldn't get away with doing too much.
No.
But yeah, that was a series I did. It was on VH1, and then it moved over to Comedy Central back in 08, 09, and that was very much fun.
It looked fun.
So Anna, of all the different things that you do you have a favorite thing? I mean, in the voiceover world, is it?
In the voiceover world, gosh, I love when I get to do video games, and that's probably mostly because you get to you do all these exertions and you get to play really fun characters, and then you see the illustrations, especially the women. The illustrations, how they animate women in video games is so ridiculous. Like, it's not even anatomically possible. You know what I mean? To have that big of boobs and that tiny of a waist, and you know what I mean? But it's so funny. You're like, oh, that's me. I'm hot. Oh, that's awesome. So I like to do video games because you also get to die in really fun ways, and and it really does throw your voice out. So I try to schedule video game sessions at the end of the day on a Friday, so that I have the weekend to rest my voice. But dying by screaming and running out of a building on fire, getting impaled, every horrible, violent way that you could possibly die, you do that in a video game.
Oh my God, how fun!
Yeah.
So do you get to see what you're supposed to be doing?
No,
usually
it depends on how far you jump into the process. Usually it's just a drawing and they haven't animated anything yet. But then sometimes you'll go in for pickups and you'll kind of see, some rough masterings of what they're doing. So yeah, it all depends on where you jump in, but it's not until I actually go and buy the game do I actually see it in action.
What's one of the games that you've done that we might know?
Oh gosh. Oh, sorry. Things are going on. My daughter's
calling you. No.
So what are the games? Let's see. I'm spacing out now, of course.
That's
Dungeon
right.
Siege 3. I just did a new one for BlizzardCon. Oh my God. Why does it keep going? Can you guys hear that?
No, but you can answer it. I edit this show. Our video lit watchers are very forgiving.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Especially with your daughter.
I know.
All two of them. Yeah, all two of them.
Sorry
Hi,
about
video
that.
watcher.
I do know she's driving home with a friend who's 18 and driving, so I just want to make sure that.
That's a thing. You should.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
I'm recording an interview right now. So sorry, you guys.
No problem. It's real life. My kids will barge in here any minute
Great.
because they know I'm talking to Siri.
Okay. I'll give you a good pickup point.
Are you sure your daughter's okay?
Yeah, she's fine. So, okay. Yes.
So Anna, how did you and Vinny did you know each other before you started doing the podcast, or what?
Wait, say that over again, Jack?
I said, did you and Vinny know each other prior to the podcast?
A little bit, not too well. He called me up and he said I wrote a book, and William Morris, which is a big agency here in LA, William Morris told me to sorry. William Morris told me to get a platform. I have to have a platform in order to sell a book, which is what we all know now very well. And he said, I'm supposed to start a podcast, and will you start the podcast with me? And I was like, ugh, no, that sounds like a lot of work. And he said, do me a favor, I have this book, and just read it. I'll send you a PDF copy. And I was like, okay, hold on. Please text Daddy. That's the next. So he sent me the book, and I went to Hawaii with my girlfriends for 4 days, and I read that thing in like 2 days on my iPhone, like scrolling through on my little iPhone, going, oh my God, this is great, this is great. The book was so great. And it inspired me, and I thought, I certainly have some things to learn in the health and fitness space. I had slowly been putting on weight. Basically, I had been diagnosed as celiac 12 years ago, which means I can't have gluten, like ever. It will make me very sick. It's an autoimmune disease where the immune system attacks the small intestines if I have gluten, and it's a cumulative effect kind of thing. It's not an anaphylactic shock. I'm not going to my throat's not going to swell up and I'm going to keel over or anything like that. But so celiac is when the immune system attacks the small intestines, it's flattening, those little villi that are in the small intestines that they absorb the nutrients. Well, it flattens them so you don't absorb any nutrients. So I get diagnosed because my mother had been diagnosed, and it's hereditary, and it kind of rocked my world. But I figure, well, I'm half Southern. I grew up in Virginia, and my dad was Italian, first-generation Italian, so I have these, sugary, grainy recipes coming at me from both sides, both cultures. And I was like, well, I'll just figure out how to make, gluten-free pizza, and gluten-free lasagna, and gluten-free donuts, and gluten-free fried this and fried that, and figure out how to make everything. And what I noticed was, and I figured out some really delicious stuff, so I started a food blog called glutenfreeanna.com. And I could make Toll House cookies that you would not know the difference. You would never know that it was gluten-free. I made this lime tart that you would swear that, you got it at a restaurant at one of the best Southern restaurants in Atlanta. But I started to slowly put on weight.
Ah.
And not realizing, you are kind of overdoing it with the sugar and the grains to kind of overcompensate for that feeling of well, I can't eat like everybody else is, so I'm just going to make these substitute things and eat them.
Okay. So it was only the gluten initially
Exactly.
that you were pulling out.
Exactly.
So the things that you were making, they were fine for your autoimmune disease, but rocking the rest of your world.
Exactly.
Got it.
So by the time I met Vinny, I had about an extra 30 pounds that was making me not happy.
Yeah.
And making me, too, scared to go work on camera. When I did go work on camera, it would freak me out because I knew I wasn't at my fighting weight,
Right.
And gosh, an extra 30 pounds isn't even really the issue, because I even hate giving a number, because I don't want somebody to listen and go, well, I'm more than that, or, well, I'm less than that. It doesn't matter. Everybody, you have your own, you know in your heart of hearts and your intuition what's working for you and what's not. And I talk to so many women, and we all have this tendency to want to get to a crazy low number, and I wish that could be a topic of a whole other podcast. Stop with the crazy low number, because it's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, so by the time I met Vinny and he was talking about NSNG, it was an interesting fit for us to do this podcast. First of all, because we found out we had great chemistry. We didn't know each other that well. We were just, we had mutual friends. But also because he burns water. He doesn't know how to cook anything. So when he said, you're going to do no sugar, no grains, I was like, great. Something new for me to figure out how to cook. You know what I mean? Like a new project. And because I can cook really well. That's something that I've done for years. And by the way, I learned how to cook from two things: from watching cooking shows ever since I was a little tiny girl, and working for a catering company where I had to slice the same things, like 1,000 onions or 1,000 red peppers or 1,000 sides of sand. You know what I mean?
Really?
Just the repetition of having to do that was a really good experience in getting stuff done in the kitchen. And by the way, I was quite slow at it. I'm sure they got very frustrated with me and wanted to fire me. I still am quite slow, but I'm cautious. I don't want to cut my pretty fingernails.
Right.
So anyway, so when I started off this NSNG thing, it worked great, and I loved it. And then I plateaued, badly. And we have people come on, and ask about the plateau. What's going on? Am I eating too much fat? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? And I basically went through that whole list. Well, are you drinking wine? Yes, I'm still drinking wine. Cut that out. Okay, cut that out. Are you drinking any alcohol at all? Well, okay, I'll have some vodka soda sometime. Okay, well, maybe try to cut that out. Okay, cut that out. Could it be, peanut butter? Don't have any legumes. Okay, cut out the legumes. Could it be you're just having too much fat? You only have 1 tablespoon of cream per like 8 ounces of coffee, which is disgusting.
Thank you.
I don't like black coffee without a lot of something in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was troubleshooting all this stuff, and then I would try different things. Like I would restrict the calories, which is something that Vinny says 100% not to do, and it wasn't working. I was not busting through this plateau. So this is still very recently, probably like 6 months ago, maybe a little more than that, 10 months ago, 8, I don't know math. So I was diagnosed with an ovarian cyst, and then right at the same time that we had Dr. Sarah Gottfried on the show, who's the author of the Hormone Cure, who I love her and I love her books, and she's so fantastic. But the Hormone Cure it just rang like a bell for me. And she has like a quiz at the beginning because, there's we're all governed by our hormones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a quiz at the beginning, and it could be a thyroid thing, or it could be an estrogen dominant thing, or it could be a not enough estrogen, or it could be an excess androgen or testosterone thing. So you go through this whole series of quizzes with all your symptoms, and it was pretty apparent that I was estrogen dominant and not making enough progesterone, which was causing the cyst. And it was a result of inflammation. So I was like, well, that's interesting, because inflammation, and it had gone down for me. The inflammation, because when you have too much weight on you, you feel inflamed. You don't feel right. Your joints don't feel good. You just don't feel right. Mm-hmm. You start to get that stuff up. You start to feel better. And I was feeling really good, so I didn't understand it. So I went to see a doctor who specializes in treating, female hormones by basically doing some oral bioidentical type of things. And you do this until you get and I started feeling better, but still no way. And that was the thing that everybody said. Once you get your hormones balanced, the weight's just going to drop right off.
Yeah.
And I was like, please bring it on.
Right.
I'm ready. And also too, I had taken up running, which I still do. 3 to 4 mornings a week, I run 3 to 5 miles, which I built up to that. But for me, that's a lot. I'm not like the ultra people that are on our show and they run 50 miles. I don't do it. In fact, I tune out when they start talking about that because I'm like, ow.
Because you're normal.
I'm normal. I like spending time with my family. I tease the ultra runners.
It's fantastic, but anyway, we're not all ultra.
Yeah. So I just kind of went down the rabbit hole of like, well, if I'm going to be the example on the podcast for everybody else, I can't be the only one that this is happening to. There's got to be more people out there. And what happens is, if they're feeling stalled or plateaued, or the brakes are hitting for some reason, they're going to tune out and they're going to give up.
Right.
They're not going to be inspired to keep going because they see everybody else is succeeding. And if you're not, you're like, well, screw it. I'm not going to do it anymore.
I know. You resign yourself to must be the new me. This age, this is it. This is the beginning of the end. I'm done.
Age excuse.
Right.
That becomes huge. So it's like, well, I guess this is what happens when you turn 40, which I did a year ago. So I just went down this rabbit hole and said, I'm going to figure this out. And there were actually other podcasts, too, that I was listening to, like Chris Kresser and Dave Asprey, and they were talking about the gut biome. They were talking about CrossReactivity, which I had never heard. They kept saying celiacs and CrossReactivity, and I just kind of tuned it out. I was like, well, I don't have that. I'm fine. And I started listening to it, and it was so interesting because I didn't want to believe that that would be something that would happen, because I didn't want to believe that another kind of food could be making me sick. So what cross-reactivity is, it means that your body your immune system is treating other kinds of food exactly as if it were gluten.
And
attacking the body and causing still remaining inflammation. It will not, and then things will not calm down until those foods are removed. So I did what's called the Cyrex Panel Array 4, which is specifically for celiacs to figure out which one is cross-reacting like gluten. And wouldn't you know it, dairy, eggs, and sesame come back and they test off the charts. And not just I mean, it's different components in dairy. You know, the casomorphin,
I was
casein,
gonna say, can you?
lactose.
I know.
Nope. And even the milk fat, which because I was like, well, maybe I can at least have butter, but the butter, the
Even
butter
clarified
fat,
butter.
even clarified butter has the fat in it, and the fat was what tested the worst of everything. So I was like, oh no, there goes my bulletproof coffee.
Yeah.
Which I do love. I love a bulletproof coffee before I go for my run.
Really?
But I tell you what, I have never felt better. It's been about a month now with no dairy, no eggs, and no sesame, and no sugar, no grains. Which is when the lady told, I actually went for 2 opinions, and by the time I got to the second opinion, when the lady said, "No, I don't think you understand. You cannot eat these things," and I just like burst into this rage cry. I was so mad.
Oh, I know, because what a huge part, especially for someone who cooks.
Oh my gosh.
And those are the main ingredients of everything that sounds tasty.
Exactly. Thank you. But if you're hurting yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I mean,
I don't know if it's going to be permanent. They say it's supposed to be permanent, but I'm not believing them. I'm believing that we're going to figure out what it is. So now I'm also back to balancing the gut biome as well. So once the inflammation goes down, then you kind of can re-inoculate yourself with the good bacteria.
now what have you eaten for the last, you said it's been about 20 days, 30 days?
It's been about a month, and I have dropped weight, which is interesting. I've gone below that plateau level now. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, I want to tell that story because I want people to not quit. I want them to keep searching for answers because there's always more to it. And NSNG is like what Jack said, the bare minimum of what I need to do. Like there's no going back from that. I'm not going to ever like go back to eating sugars and grains. You know what I mean? Like that's the bare minimum. And then if we have to do the egg and the dairy thing, fine, we'll do it. But it's just a bare minimum of what I need to do to maintain my immune system and my sanity. The autoimmune response, it's no joke. It's a big deal. And there are a lot of people out there with autoimmune diseases. Absolutely. And a lot of people who are about to be diagnosed with them too. You know, so when you find out, I'm here to tell you it's going to be okay.
I mean, that's the thing. It's real interesting. Some of us are doing this Whole30 thing.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of similar to the way I'm eating.
It's similar, but we can have, but you can have the clarified butter and the eggs and stuff.
You can.
But
yeah, that's right.
But there's so much that you cut out, definitely of the standard American diet.
Yeah.
But even those of us that thought that we were eating pretty healthy, oh my gosh, now I'm having black coffee because of the no dairy.
I know.
Other thing, I know, but you know what? In the first week was horrific.
Yeah.
But then it really is something that I was eating before. I got to figure out after this 30 days what it was. I feel totally different. If they'd have told me I was going to feel this good, I would have done it a long time ago. Yeah. Now I'm kind of like, okay, we're coming up on the 30 days. I don't want to go right back. What can I add?
What are you going to reintroduce? Are you going to reintroduce dairy?
I don't know. I don't know.
Do it one thing at a time.
I know, because you don't want to waste all of that time. But I think it's what you're saying. There's things that some people might be, celiac, obviously major reactions, but we might be sensitive to things we don't even realize that we're sensitive to. Maybe not full-blown allergic, but I don't know. It's a fascinating thing when you start getting down to stripping your diet of things you wouldn't. So I totally respect what you're doing.
Well, thanks. I respect what you're doing too. I mean, that's. I think it's good to, and I always like it too when you make a decision like that to cut something out, thinking, well, I'll just experiment with it, and then you find out, oh my God, I feel amazing. That's cool.
Yeah.
Anna, you had talked about not doing things that hurt your body, or that's what celiac. When you discovered celiac, and then the other eggs and things like that. In the paleo community, depending on who you talk to, they kind of believe that almost everybody is celiac to a certain degree.
Right.
Do you buy that, or what? Just in your experience and you talking to people, should nobody eat gluten?
No, of course not. That would be grossly arrogant to say that, I think. I do think that there are issues with our immune systems that probably stem from something that I can't even begin to understand. I do know it's got to be tied somehow into the gut biome. I do know it's got to be tied into There was a point in my life when I was okay, and then there was a point in my life when the celiac kicked in. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So yes, I was genetically predisposed to it, but I didn't always have it. So I wasn't diagnosed until I was 28. I don't recall any symptoms before puberty. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, but it's real tough to say because I was eating a standard American diet, even though that was many years ago. It's still, you know what I mean? I don't know. Should no one eat gluten? I don't know. Just try it out. See if you feel better. That's my only answer, because I think that there are probably a lot of other immune system issues. For example, when I was pregnant, and this was 2 years before I was diagnosed with celiac, when I was pregnant, I had the most horrific vomiting every day until I was 6.5 months pregnant. So I come to find out that this is very typical of pregnancies with people who deal with autoimmune issues. It's because the immune system is inflamed trying to protect the fetus, plus, like extra so, more so than with other folks. And I would watch my girlfriends who would get pregnant. They'd be like, it's just so easy. I was just chilling out, man. It was great. And they were glowing. And I was like, oh, my God, I'm going to puke all the time, every day. For 6.5 months. Like, it was horrendous. And I didn't get pregnant again. I was like, I'm not having another kid. I don't think I can go through that again.
Horrific.
I know. And the borderline gestational diabetes, I'm sure, tied into it. You know what I mean? And it was also, too, I didn't know. And I didn't even know what I didn't know then. So maybe if I had waited until a few years after being diagnosed and had another baby, it would have been easier. But I don't know. It's hard to say, not knowing. But the immune system is no joke, and all these kids now, like my nieces and nephews, they all have terrible allergies, and one of them, the youngest one who's 3, in 2 weeks after she was born, had blood in her stool, and the allergist determined she cannot have gluten or dairy, and this is not a blood relation to mine, so I know it's not my doing. It's somebody else's bloodline.
Not my fault.
It's not my fault. But, I mean, for a 2-week-old to be so sick, and the fact that the dairy and the gluten was passing through my sister-in-law's breast milk and causing this tiny little baby to be so sick. And she's 3 now, and she's totally fine, but she hasn't had a lick of gluten or dairy in her entire life, and she'll probably not have it.
See, I tend to think that it's got to be, food quality and environmental, because there's just way too many people that are way too sick.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think the food quality's definitely messed with us.
One of my babies, I worked so hard to breastfeed, and it was such a hassle, but I just had heard it was the best thing, and the longest time we went on, he was very sick, and he couldn't tolerate it. We thought he was lactose intolerant, and then they told me it was a milk protein thing and all this, and I mean, he just suffered for the longest time, and then we were like, okay, with that kid. And when I think back of what my diet was back then,
right,
I had no clue that anything that I was eating could be affecting this poor baby.
Well, we're not taught, at least I wasn't taught that food is basically like a drug. Mm-hmm. Food is medicine. No, it was not that at all. It was just, and you asked what I was eating. I'll tell you, I just made dinner. And I had a little we try to buy the grass-fed beef, but if we don't, then we'll get the nicer kind. You know what I mean? Not just like the factory stuff. I'm trying to think of what it's called. I'm spacing out. But I try to get the grass-fed beef as much as possible. Obviously, you can't always have access to that. But I did get a grass-fed skirt steak. So I just salt and peppered that, and I put balsamic on one side, and I did it in the cast iron pan because my husband didn't feel like grilling. And we roasted a sweet potato, and which now I can't put butter or cheese on my sweet potato, which makes me mad. So I drizzle some olive oil on there and put some salt, Villa Capelli olive oil, of course. If you guys know the show, I like talking about my Villa Capelli olive oil. And then some broccolini and garlic and olive oil. So, it wasn't bad. I will say I have added a little bit more starchy vegetables in, like acorn squash, pumpkin, sweet potato. Not too much, but I've added that in because I am a little hungrier, and I used to eat so much dairy for snack that I have had to add in a little bit more. on
Anna,
that end.
you'll appreciate that I gave a good friend of mine Extra Virgin, the book that you talk about
Oh my
I
God,
think,
such a good book.
as well as, and along with it, I shipped him a bottle of Villa Capelli just because he's a big olive oil guy, and I kept telling him about how how it's the most corrupt food product on the planet. And when I sent him the book, now he's an olive oil snob.
Oh my gosh. I have the biggest smile from ear to ear right now. That makes me so happy. Did he love the Villa Capelli?
Oh yeah, I shipped it to him before Christmas, and he shot me a picture, in a text message that was scallops with the olive oil, and he said
Yeah.
scallops with, he had capital real olive oil.
Tell
So
me
it's cool.
about that, because I've heard a couple of shows. I've heard several shows now, and I've heard y'all mention it, but I
Yeah.
don't have the whole story about why that olive oil is better than others.
This is my cause, and it's not that olive oil is better. That's one of the good ones, but this is like my cause. This is like such a ridiculous, overprivileged cause. But I mean this because it sounds like it. But olive oil is something I eat every single day. I put it in I cook with it every day. I put it. Sometimes I do a shot of it. I have so much olive oil, and so what they've done. Here's how I found it out. I went over to Italy in 2011, and I stayed at Villa Capelli with Paul Capelli, and Paul told me, "Hey, they cut your olive oil over there. They cut it like 30-40%." He's from New York, but he was born in Italy, but now he lives back in Italy. And I was like, whatever. He's just trying to sell me his olive oil. Yeah. and I was like, but his olive oil was really good. Everything on the Villa was really good. It's amazing. By the way, you can go vacation there. It's amazing. So I was like, kind of brushed it aside. And then somebody was telling me this back in the States, and I was like, what? And then I heard an interview with Tom, I think his name is Tom Mueller or Tom Muller, who's the author of Extra Virgin. I heard him being interviewed, and I was like, I got to get this book. This is like right up my alley. And it's basically the history of olive oil, but then it talks about the rampant food fraud in the olive oil industry. So and it turns out Paul Capelli is right, that he was not BSing me, that this is true. The big olive oil companies are legally allowed by the FDA to cut the olive oil with cheaper oils, cottonseed oil, canola oil, what are the other ones? Safflower, sunflower.
Those are all the oils they're telling us to stay away from.
I know. They put them in the olive. So if you ever see like the pale olive oil, it's like Kroger brand light olive oil, or like things like that, don't buy it because that's been cut with a cheaper oil. Now the Italians call that cheaper seed oil lampante, which means lamp oil. Means that they would burn it in the lamp, but they're not going to eat it.
Gross.
I know, right? So it's really just disgusting. So Villa Capelli is one that I know is a good brand, so then they became a sponsor of our podcast. But there are other ones. There's a lot of good ones out there, but you just have to kind of look around, and they're mostly small batch, and they're going to be more expensive.
Is that on the ingredients label or no?
Nope.
Whoa, so how do you know?
You don't. You basically have to kind of do your research on the Google and kind of dig deep. You can, if you are lucky enough to live near a place that has an olive oil tasting place. Usually those places are very trustworthy, and they know the growers, and they would love to have conversations with you and tell you all about it. I do know this. There's one Costco, if you live near a Costco, it's Kirkland Extra Virgin Organic, and it comes in kind of like the big jug, and that one I know has not been cut.
Wow.
You can also Google UC Irvine olive oil study. They come out with olive oil results every year where they test to see if things have been cut or, here's the other thing. They put deodorizer and colorant in it.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
And it's totally legal. This is totally legal. It's insane.
The stuff that's legal to do with our food now is
disgusting.
It is. And we sound like freaks when, like, Jack and I have this conversation a lot around our regular office environment. Like, people are looking, at what you're eating for lunch. So we're kind of trying to fly under the radar, and we really shouldn't. But but it's because you start to hear this stuff, and you're not a freak if you don't want to eat colorant or.
I know, right?
I mean,
and I mean, I haven't got to the point where I'm like won't touch something in a restaurant, but
Yeah.
but for the most part, most restaurants they don't even know. They don't know. They're just
Yeah.
trying to get an affordable. What are you gonna do? Like, just eat at home always? Like, you have to live your life, but at least in the home you can kind of control it. So that book, Extra Virgin, is what sent me on this. Like, that's my cause. I can't believe that they can do that. That they can put crap in our olive oil and then pass it off as olive oil.
It's a bigger cause than just being an olive oil snob, like Jake says.
I hope so.
It is because it brings to light, it shines a light on that whole regulation, non-regulation, you know, if it's less than 1%, you can say it has this or that, or you don't have to report it at all, or you guys can self-regulate that part of the industry, you know, all kinds of craziness going on with our food.
Hey, are you allowed to have coconut-based stuff on the Whole30? Or what is it? Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I was going to tell you, I've been doing it to have the coffee. I've been doing like a dollop of coconut cream, some MCT oil, and some collagen, that bovine collagen.
What is that? Like,
it's like a powder.
Botox?
Yeah, it makes your lips really puffy. No, it's basically the stuff that's in if you make bone broth.
Oh.
Collagen powder. It's kind of like, it's basically, well, let's call it what it is. It's ground up bones. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But they hydrolyze it so that it doesn't get gooey like Jello. It's basically gelatin.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't goo, so it'll dissolve in liquids. So I do that, and I put it all in the Vitamix with the coffee, and it gets really nice and frothy, and so I don't miss the cream because I do it that way. Just telling you in case because you have been dealing with the black coffee. You might be used to it by now. But.
And I don't know if coconut oil, but just because I haven't had, I've been just sticking to the same things that I like, and just dealing with the black coffee. A listener, a guy who's a contributor really to this show, TJ, sent me an AeroPress so my coffee wouldn't be so acidic, and that has helped quite a bit.
That's funny. I had a listener send me one of those too.
It was awesome. I would say thanks again, TJ. But yes, no, I'm looking here, and you can have coconut butter, coconut milk, coconut meat.
Oh, that's good.
You know, but I also had somebody point out that I'm not really doing the Whole30, even though I'm eating that way, because you're not supposed to weigh yourself. I don't know if you've ever looked into this thing, but...
Oh, they ask you not to weigh yourself for the whole 30 days?
To be changing your relationship with the scale, just like you're changing. And I respect that, and I agree that 30 days of not looking at a scale would be a very healthy thing for me mentally. To the other measures, how do you feel? What about your clothes? Don't be so tied to this number. Like you said, it's a crazy number you're trying to get to. Maybe, and I'm strength training, so that's going to throw that off.
Stop the madness, Carol!
I know!
Off the scale! I'm going to come over there, I'm going to take that scale, I'm going to throw it out the window.
I know.
Do you have a 2-story house?
No, but I could get on the roof with it.
I'm going to get on the roof and I'm going to chuck it into the street and watch it bust out.
I know. It's very unhealthy. But here's the thing. Jack and I are both, I'm going to drag you down, throw you under the bus too, Jack. Jack and I are doing separately a weight loss challenge that all these people, like 100 and something people, all throw in $35.
Right.
And in really the weight loss challenge, you get points for all these healthy habits. Drinking a bunch of water, 64 more ounces a day, getting enough sleep, a certain number of hours of sleep, making sure you have enough vegetables every day, making sure, things that we're supposed to do. Yeah. But it's kind of fun to get all these points. But you do weigh in every Friday and send your weight in. So
have you been looking at that?
Huh?
Do you look at it, or do you just let them weigh you and you don't look at it?
I look at it, and that's why I'm not technically doing Whole30. I'm eating the way Whole30 people.
Well, after the weight loss challenge is over, will you stop looking at the scale? No.
Dang it! Do you know what happened the last time I did that, Anna?
Did you get big?
Yes, I did.
I have done that too. Listen to me. I have been there, but I'm going to tell you something. You know what? I have this notebook, and it's just filled with stats, waist measurement, and weight, and thigh measurement. I measure it at the same freckle on my thigh to make sure I'm getting the right measurement. Measure the same place where I have a little like dimple in my butt to get the thing around, get the same measurement, and write it in a book. I'd put it in a spreadsheet if I had the time. And I was like, for years doing this, for years. And something inside me clicked back in August. And I said, I will never again in my life get on a scale unless I absolutely have to for medical reasons. And even then, I'm not going to look. And so you ask, how do you know that you lost weight then? Well, I know because my running pants, my little pantaloons that I run in, are falling off of me, and I had to go get new ones. That's how I know.
I'll trade that for that stupid scale any day.
I'm telling you, because then what happens, you look at a number, and you have a number in your head, and it will set your mood for the whole day. And if
it sure does.
And it's not right. You should set your mood for the whole day, not the scale.
Dang it, that makes a lot of sense.
I'm going to get you, Carol. I'm going to get you. I'm going to turn you over.
Here I thought I was doing so good because I used to be a daily weigher.
That's what I was. Yeah.
Exactly like you said. Even if you had too much salt yesterday, or you ate a heavy dinner, the scale would show it, and oh my God, I'm gaining weight.
I know.
Stupid, right? And so now, since it's only on Friday, it's killing me not to weigh more often, but I only weigh to send it into the thing, and I do look. And there's other people doing this that are like, I'm not going to look so that I can stay more true to my Whole30. I don't know. I need to.
It was the time was right for me to give it up. When the time is right for you, you'll be like, I don't need that anymore. You know what I mean?
I like what you're saying.
And it's going to feel really good.
I like what you're saying about the other measures, like not just the measuring tape, but just the clothes you're wearing. What about just the clothes you're wearing?
You know which pair of pants is your fat pants. You know which pair of pants is your skinny pants. You know that, like, I haven't put those on in forever and I'm scared. Oh, I had one of those moments too. I had bought these jeans at the lowest part of my NSNG weight loss, and they're so cute, and they're basically like those kind of tight jeggings, and they're kind of dark blue, and they're real slimming. And then I put them on, and I was like, I can't wear these anymore. And then I put them on after giving up all this other stuff and feeling like, I wonder if I try these on. And I did, and they fit just perfectly. And I was like, yep, this is working.
Dang it.
This is working. But it's like a mind shift thing, because that's what I was scared of. If I didn't get on the scale, then nothing would hold me accountable.
Right. It is a mind shift thing.
What's holding me accountable is me knowing that I want to make good choices so that I feel better.
Dang it.
Dang it!
So I want to say that I don't know that I'm proud of the fact that I know what jeggings are, but as a father of 3 daughters, I actually do.
Yeah, you probably bought a few pair in your day.
Talk to us about your jeggings, Jack.
Yeah. So, but Ann, I wanted to ask you about life into living. We talked a little bit about with Vinny, but I want to talk to you because you're like the voice of reason,
right?
And the real person on the podcast,
right?
Not the robot. What is that? First of all, just remind everybody what it is, and then I would just like, from your perspective, is that something that is that for you? Is that weekly, monthly, just on holidays? Every other year, like Vinny? I mean, what is your view of that?
It's not every other year. And let me tell you something about Vinny Tordrich. The man is so cut and slender and fit that he could scarf 10 pizzas a day for 5 years, and then maybe he would gain a pound. So it's just, you have to give it up at a certain point. And so it's hilarious that he wants to not go yet another year without, like, having, because he could. That's what I'm saying. Like, he could, but he also has other health concerns that he wants to make sure he's doing everything he can to keep his cancer at bay. He had leukemia,
Right,
and he talks, obviously, I'm not, like, revealing anything. He talks about it very freely in his book and on our podcast. So he's got other things he's concerned about, which is great. But life into living for me, which, by the way, one of the first things I wanted to go do when I found out I could not eat these things was go eat some things, which is another way that we tend to mask our emotions by, I feel like crap, I'm going to try to eat something to feel better. So even just recognizing when you do that is a huge accomplishment and starts to lessen it. But so my life into living now is I bought that coconut ice cream that's sweetened with monk fruit. It sounds so pathetic. It's like, ugh. No, here's what I did. I very specifically, I already knew the Christmas Eve dinner that I was going to make, and these folks were coming over, and I knew I was going to make cheese grits, a glazed ham, fried okra, and succotash. So the succotash is heavy cream. The glazed ham is going to have some coconut sugar on it. The fried okra is made with almond meal, so that's not a big deal. And the cheese grits are grits and cheese and eggs, which I'm not supposed to be having, right? So I knew I was going to have this dinner, and then when people come over for Christmas Eve dinner, they're going to bring sweets, they're going to bring chocolate, they're going to bring alcohol, it's going to be everything. And then Christmas Day, too, I was going to someone else's house, and that's when it's really difficult, because you don't want to tell somebody, make a special dinner for me, when you're already making this huge Christmas dinner for 17 people. So those days, so yeah, holidays for sure, I'm going to let her rip. And I did, and you know what? I felt not that great for a few days afterwards. The inflammation kind of kicked back in. I got that little bloated belly again. Mm-hmm. But as far as life into living, like on a week-to-week basis, like I said, I bought that coconut ice cream sweetened with monk fruit, which, by the way, just kind of tastes dry. It tastes like Dippin' Dots. It's like dry. It's weird. But, so having a few bites of that maybe like every other night. Or I found these cookies that are called Lucy. They're by Lucy brand, and they're and there's another brand called Enjoy Life, and they do egg-free, gluten-free, dairy-free, nut-free, and then my husband goes on to say joy-free, fun-free, happy-free. So I'll sneak one of those every now and then, but it's nothing crazy. I'm not gonna like go through a box or whatever, but that's just when I'm like, I can't stand. Oh, and the dark chocolate that doesn't have milk solids in it. That's the other thing. I guess basically I'm kind of I'm literally like a vegan now, except for the straight up meat. Except for the straight up meat part, I'm exactly like a vegan.
Just like the same exact thing.
Mm-hmm. We share the same ideals, except for the meat part, except for the skirt steak. I ate vegan tonight.
But okay, so has your palate really changed a lot to where that ice cream maybe a couple of years ago you wouldn't have found appealing, but now it's a bit of a treat, as are those cookies. Yeah, they're not joy-free for you.
No, I think they taste pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And when I'm looking forward to when I have those cuties, you know, those little clementines that are in season right now. That's a good little sweet treat. Mm-hmm. So talk about your palate changing. That to me tastes like candy, and I'm becoming that person who's like, oh, you guys, this tastes like candy, this fruit. And everyone's like, no, it doesn't. Candy tastes like candy. Yeah, candy tastes like but it does. It's so delicious. Like,
that is. I've got to give it to those Whole30 people, because people told me it would be like that, and I'm like, I'm sorry. I mean, the way I sweeten my coffee and the artificial sweeteners and stuff that I was using, there's just no way. Plus, I wasn't eating fruit because I was concerned about carbs. So now I have my first sweet potato that I've had in like a year, and somebody told me just put a little cinnamon and some clarified butter on that. That's all legal. And
it tastes like you're eating a sweet potato pie, doesn't it?
It was amazing.
I know, right? Now we're those people. Yeah.
We are those people.
It's okay.
I'd rather be those people. Okay.
So, Anna, you've got a cookbook coming out at some point.
Yes, I do. I have been working on the cookbook Eat Happy, which you can find at glutenfreeanna.com. There's a lot of recipes there, and the photography is all mine as well. And I like doing that. I like being creative.
It's really fun. Your site, your AnnaVocino.com site is very cute.
Oh, that's fun too. Yeah, that has all my acting stuff and
with a little TV. But it'll link you right over to Gluten Free Anna too from there. So we'll have all those links in the show notes. That's all.
The cookbook will come out eventually. I don't know. Eventually. I'm working on it. But there's tons of recipes up at the blog. So if you need anything, and you'll see stuff kind of evolve as the story I just told you guys evolves. And I'm trying to do, like, I made carnitas the other day and took a picture, and then I had to go and buy some Mexican cheese
Uh-huh.
to put in the picture as if I was eating that, but I wasn't eating it. But
I was gonna say your
then I had to
diet
add it
keeps
in.
changing. So does the book changing with
No,
your?
and this is the thing. The book is a snapshot of where I was for the past 2 years, and the book will have, because I actually already put in recipes that when they can be made dairy-free, I indicate that. So, because I know there are a lot of people who do NSNG and are very specific, I cannot have dairy, and they knew years before I knew. So that's in there, and then they're dairy recipes for the people who can. And I think that it should remain flexible for people. Yeah. But yeah, the next cookbook might be an entirely dairy-free cookbook. I don't know, or I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, well, that'll be fun to see, to follow you and see. That's just amazing. I really love, I mean, that's the whole premise of our show, is just to spotlight people's journey. But you're coming on kind of like an expert too, because you guys have been, you guys have counseled so many people, and there are huge Facebook groups and things out there of people just following you guys to try to stick with the simplicity of NSNG.
Right.
And so I love that you're both for our show. You've got that, but also your own journey, which is not a straight line. And Jack had said that.
And it never is.
Yeah, it is very different. I mean, we really appreciated Vinny. He really was a great guest, and a lot of people have already sent us a bunch of feedback that, they've gotten the book. I read the book right after I talked to him. I loved it, of course.
Great.
And, and I think, so y'all are putting out great stuff out there for people together. But just to hear your background, there's so many women that contact us, and you really do, you feel their pain. It's just like, it feels like hopeless. Like, I've tried everything. When really, we might not have tried everything. We might have just tried what we used to work, and we've tried it harder, or something.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'd say, too, to anybody who feels hopeless, don't feel hopeless. Try, if you can get to one of these doctors and do a blood test, great. You don't have to do that. I did that because I know people here, and I can go do that, and I'm able to afford that, and I want to use myself as an example on the podcast. So I did it on purpose, and I'm glad I did. But you can also try to Google any one of these things, like low FODMAPs diet, or what are some of the other ones? The inflammation diet, Whole30. Like, try something different. Try to change it up, because if it's not working, it's not working. You should not plateau for a year and a half like I did. You should not do that. And honestly, I told folks years ago, before I was diagnosed with celiac, I remember eating JoJo's, which are the Trader Joe's brand of Oreos. I remember I was shoving like 4 of them in my mouth, and telling my husband and being like, I would never give up eating cookies, you know what I mean? Unless it was like medically necessary. Like a doctor was like, you have a disease. And I was like, literally like a month later, I was diagnosed with celiac, and I was like, oh my God.
Careful.
Did I like create that? What's going on? You know what I mean? But and then I recently said, like, I just couldn't give up dairy, you know what I mean? Like, unless a doctor told me. And then sure enough, the doctor said, so I'm going to stop saying those things.
Yeah, stop saying that.
It's a lesson learned.
No, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Learning.
But just try it. So, like, I love that you just did that, just to try something new, because you got to change it up if it's not working. Yeah,
and there's a saying in that challenge that we're doing: if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you.
That's true.
So if you need a change, if there's some part of your life that you're seeing you're not making progress, it's probably going to be a little bit of a challenge, what is going to work, but it may not stay that challenging.
Right.
Like, the longer you do something, especially if you're seeing results, and if you're feeling better. Yeah. So I'm going
I wanted to say one more thing on that topic about challenges, because I know a lot of people are doing Sober January right now, and Sober October. It seems to be a popular thing. I do know with women that alcohol is a big inflammation fire starter. So that might be something that you want to, if inflammation's a really big deal, or you're feeling bloated or whatever, you might want to try 30 days without it. And I'm going to say this. it won't be easy if you're used to having drinks at a social occasion, or you're used to, whatever, your glass of wine at the end of the night, or if you're just a raging alcoholic, it'll be very difficult.
Yeah, it's going to be
But,
really hard.
I suggest not drinking. It can't hurt to try 30 days without drinking. It's not as big of a deal as it seems like it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this because Andrea Anders and I did 100 days of no drinking last year, from July 22nd through October 30th. And which we wound up going through Halloween, because Halloween night was the night we were going to break our drinking fast. But we wound up not being able to hang out together. But that was a very interesting experiment in kind of getting over that, like, it's almost like the food thing. Like, you feel like, oh, if I'm at a party, I have to eat what everyone else is eating. Oh, if I'm at a party, I have to have a cocktail like everybody else is.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you get any kind of nervous, which sometimes I do, and I went to a bunch of Emmys parties, and I was there with one of the nominees as her wing woman, and I didn't want to, like, embarrass her or embarrass myself, but I wasn't drinking, and I realized, oh, that was an interesting experiment. Oh, sorry, my phone's ringing.
It's okay.
I'm sure it's a telemarketer. Yep. We should have answered it on the air. But the not drinking thing was very interesting, because it was kind of reframing, who are you going to be at social events?
Yeah. Jack talks about that, don't you, Jack? It's a very socially, it's an interesting dynamic if you're going to abstain.
Yeah, it's so social, food and alcohol both. Sorry for my voice. It's not getting any better, but and that's a challenge. I mean, and figuring out how you're going to manage that's important.
Yeah, for sure. And it was very interesting, the things I learned about myself, which are basically, oh, you're kind of the loud, obnoxious, fun girl at a party, or at least I think I'm fun. You're the loud, and you don't need alcohol. So great. You said that thing to Tony Hale, that came from you. You did that stupid thing in front of Joel McHale, that came from you. That's okay. That wasn't because you were drunk or anything. You're just an a-hole. Great. I can live with that. I'm at peace.
That's great.
Yeah.
It is. It's all a journey.
It's all a journey.
We're just figuring ourselves out. So we really appreciate you, because it really is. I think what the big value that we add is that we're all still just trying things. You're never going to be at the end of your journey. You're always going to be trying something else, or continuing something else, or trying to stay motivated. So you've really helped us, get a little further down the road.
Well, this is fun. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. Jack, were you going to say?
Thanks, Anna.
Poor Jack. Every time he talks, his voice is like,
it's a little bit worse.
It's like he shoved a ball of sandpaper in there or something. Are you okay?
It's getting worse. But thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and keep it up.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Keep up all the greatness. We really appreciate you. And we're going to, make sure that your links are in the show notes. Today's show notes. Yeah, today's show notes are at fat2fithq.com/118. We have links in there. We'll have AnnaVocino.com, and it's glutenfreeanna.com.
Yeah,
is that
glutenfreeanna.com. Yes.
Yeah, and of course to your podcast as well. We definitely, if you guys want to connect with us, you can go into the show notes and connect through our MyFitnessPal community, our Fitbitter group, our Facebook page. Please leave us a review in iTunes, and we will be back in about a week or so. Anna, we're hoping to have you back on, because there's so many things that you talked about that could be a whole show.
I know, right?
Yes,
I would love to.
Let's make a commitment right now to do a show about the scale.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw Jack under the bus, because Jack is a frequent weigher, aren't you, Jack?
Yeah. I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's that fear of relapse taking over your better judgment.
Yeah, it is.
It's that irrational part of. I get it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So if Anna were to come back on, let's say, okay, Jack and I are going to finish this challenge in another 6 weeks or so. It's an 8-week challenge, so 5 or 6 weeks will be at the end of it.
Okay.
And then we could
And then a new
say,
challenge, the no scale challenge.
yeah, let's do 30 days of no weighing or a little bit more. Let's do 60 days and have Anna come on at the end of that.
Okay, that's great.
You know, so that's a few months down the road.
What if you just weighed yourself once every 30 days for a 60 or 90-day snapshot, and then you could track to see if your theory that you're going to put on weight without checking it every day is true, or if you're able to maintain through listening to your body.
You should do that, Carol.
Yeah, Jack, you should do that, Jack.
That's what I heard him say. I should do that. I think
he said I should do that. That's what he said. His
did.
voice is like, you can't hear him, but that's what he said.
Yes, it's that scratchy voice. Okay, commitment.
Right.
Solid. For real, and I'm going to correspond with you about that. And I'm going to see if there are listeners and people in our community, because we have an awesome community, a very interactive community, who wants to do that challenge with us.
Great.
And then, you know, we'll put some markers out there, and then if you want to come back and talk with us and we'll reflect, that would be fantastic.
That'd be awesome. I would love that.
Okay, at least that.
Yay.
Okay, thank you, Anna. We really appreciate it. It was a thrill.
Thanks,
Thank
Anna.
you so much for having me, guys. All right, take care.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.